Welcome to the Candle Business Coach Podcast, a show about the craft of candle making and small business. I'm your host, Kirsty Allen, and I'm a candle maker, mum of three, and kindness advocator. Join me as I dive into all things candles and small business and deliver advice and tips to you in episodes every Tuesday and Friday. Are you on the list to get my daily motivation emails? Every day I'll send you a message that is designed to help keep you focused on taking action toward your goals. Sign up using the link in the show notes. This episode is brought to you by my free ebook, the Candle Business Marketing Kickstarter Kit. Inside this free ebook, you'll learn to identify your blocks of time to dedicate to your candle business. Plus, there are several tips and tricks for re-engaging past customers and attracting new customers into your business so you can grow your business and reach your goals. Check out the link in the show notes for your copy. Welcome back to the podcast, my friend. We have a very special guest joining us all the way from America. Dianna is a fellow candle maker and she's created an inventory management system and will chat to us today about the importance of keeping track of your inventory as a small business owner. Dianna, welcome to the show. Would you love to say hello and introduce yourself to the listeners?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. My name is Dianna, and much like your intro said, I'm the founder of TERRA and also the co-founder of Inventora. And yeah.
I love that. I love that you've grown with your businesses and have always had that ethos of supporting other people and wanting to do what's right, not only for people, but the planet as well. So how did you get started with candle making, just as a bit of a side note?
Yeah, so for me, candle making formally started in 2019, but I always like to tell people my story started so much longer before that. Basically from very much in my early adult life, I can remember having the urge to learn how to make candles. But between working and at one point I had a second job, I just never found the time to really dive into that hobby. And years went by, like 2013, 2014, all the way to 2019, when I had actually, at that point, traveled abroad for some time and returned back home. And when I returned back home, the only thing I still wanted to do was just experiment and try to learn how to make candles. And I finally thought, okay, if it's been on my mind for this many years and I still want to do it, then this is like now or never. And so I remember being home at my mom's house and in her kitchen. And I was like, you know what? Let me just get some candle wax. There's a candle supply store in my city. So I went there and got some fragrance oil too, watched a few videos on YouTube. And honestly, the rest is history. I just remember making that very first batch. The scent was pink grapefruit and spring basil. That's what I named it. And my mom walks into the kitchen after a day at work. And I think at that point I had been finished making the candles for hours. And she just swings open the door and she's like, "Oh my gosh, it smells so good in here." And I was kind of taken aback because I don't know, I just wanted to experiment and like learn how to make candles. And her reaction just really like kind of confirmed that I wanted to do this and what else is possible when it came to creating scents. So I thank my mom to this day for reacting as positively as she did. But since then, I kind of have crafted my journey around my experience traveling and just taking inspiration from nature that you might overlook every day.
Definitely. And as a customer of TERRA, I know that the candles that you make truly are incredible. They're made so well and your brand is just so, it's unique in that it stands out from the competition, but you're still so humble and still so grateful for the journey that you've had and the passion that you have for the craft. And I know the listeners will be super excited to to have us chatting today, because it's so important to look forward to the future and see where you can go on your journey. And you've had such success in your business and in both businesses. So for the listeners that are either at the start of their journey or have dreams of making this their full-time job or full-time passion, it's knowing that it's possible and that it's doable is just such an inspiration. So thank you for being that shining light and showing us the way.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, I will say, because I never expected what could happen from all of this. Like I said, I just wanted to learn how to make candles. And I will admit, I didn't know how far I could take it, but I do believe that if you just try and try and try a little more every day, your little steps do add up to make big leaps.
Definitely. And it's so important to take imperfect action. It doesn't matter if you're not doing exactly what you think you need to be doing, but just, as you say, put that one foot in front of the other, keep going on your journey, keep trying. And you just don't know where it's going to lead you and what contacts you'll make, what customers you'll have, and how big your business can grow if that's what you want for your business. So speaking about Inventora, which I'm so excited to chat about, for the listeners that don't know or haven't heard of it, especially because most of my listeners are Australian-based, I do have US listeners as well, so they'll be very familiar with this program. But if you can explain what Inventora actually is.
Yeah, so Inventora is kind of like what it sounds like. It's an inventory management system. And Inventora basically came about because I had just begun going full time on my candle business. And I thought, well, if I want to take this seriously, if it's my full time endeavor now, let me get everything organized. And I immediately thought of my inventory, because at that point, I just had all these cardboard boxes filling my apartment. And even though I mentally knew pretty much what I had, I wanted a system to just fall back on, just to kind of like keep me in line and in case things ever got out of control. And so I went on this hunt, and I remember it took about 2 months. I was just researching for an inventory system, what was out there. And ultimately, what I learned through my findings was a lot of the systems that appealed to me were designed for what I would say are enterprise companies. Like, they were very robust systems, but because of that, they were like $1,000 a month. And me just starting my business full time at that point, I was very, very conscious about what I was spending money on. And so, as much as the idea of being able to afford that sounds great, it just wasn't possible. So then I looked for a cheaper alternative. And I will say there were cheaper alternatives out there, but when I got into them, they either just weren't savvy enough, or they didn't have the right features for me personally as a candle maker. And then on top of it, a lot of them just felt very outdated. So I'm kind of a picky person, and I don't know, I guess I'm spoiled with tech these days, and I'm just used to things being very simple and very user friendly, just easy to get into it and start. And so, with me not finding anything that suited my needs, my wants, I ultimately landed back on just using a spreadsheet. And I opened up Excel, and I remember I had a spreadsheet for my materials, and I had a spreadsheet for my products. And what I wanted to do, which I thought at the time would be so simple, I wanted my product spreadsheet to basically talk to my materials spreadsheet. And so every time I made a candle, whether it be one candle, 50 candles, 100 candles, whatever I said I made, I wanted it to automatically deduct from the material spreadsheet. And in theory, it sounds so simple, because spreadsheets literally are just formulas, and they do math for people all the time. But for some reason, when they're on different spreadsheets, the talking part of it is really hard. And so I remember it was like a weekend. And I approached my husband and I told him all my frustrations about like my inventory, how I can't find a system, how I'm stuck using Excel and it's not even working out very well. And luckily for me, my husband is a software engineer. So he proposed the idea, why don't we just make you a system? Like he basically saw my problem and was like, is that all you want it to do? And I was like, yes, I just want it to deduct. That's it. And so I think we spent the next 24, 48 hours whipping together what is the bare bones of Inventora at that time. And it did exactly what I wanted to do. I had a materials page, I had a products page, and I could update my finished candle quantities and it deducted the materials used. And I was like, this is perfect. Because for me, I knew exactly what materials went into making one candle. So with knowing that information and setting it up that way, it was able to do the math. But a few months went by, and that's when everything kind of changed because I was still using it for myself and kind of just keeping it a secret, I think. I don't think I talked about it for a few months. And on Instagram, I every now and then I'll do what I call a work with me Wednesday. And I try to show behind the scenes of what I'm up to at TERRA, kind of what does it take to run TERRA when it comes to like the admin tasks or just various other things. And that day specifically, I think I said, I'm either doing like an inventory audit or I'm doing something with my inventory. And a few people came into my DMs and was like, hey, what do you use for your inventory? Like, what system are you using? And I had to unfortunately tell people, oh, it's just my own. Like, my husband and I made it and I'm just using it. And they were like, well, whenever you decide to make it public, like invite me. I want to use it too, or I want to try it. And that was when we kind of said, oh, there's other people out there who have the same problem. So that's kind of the story of how Inventor started, really, and just what it is. It's basically an inventory management system that we have been working on ever since that point.
I love it. It's such a good story. And being a user of Inventora, like knowing how easy it is to use, how incredibly powerful it is, and all the different features and functions, to hear the origin story is so lovely. So thank you for sharing that. So what was the process like when you actually first started rolling out the business to the public?
Yeah. So for us, because Jeremy, my husband, like both of us are equal co-founders, and it works out really well because he, like I said, is a software engineer and he has those skills. And then I have the skills as the business owner who knows what the problems are, who knows what solutions we need to create. And then on top of it, I won't say I'm an expert at marketing, but I know the basics of marketing. And I think I had a good grasp of how to get users to Inventora at the time. Honestly, a lot of the skills overlap with growing TERRA and trying to attract buyers to my candles. So, with starting the business of Inventora, for us, we really just kind of stuck to our own, I guess, strengths. So, he just kind of worked on building out the features. I worked on getting people into Inventora. And since it was a total side project, like at that time, we we didn't have anything in the business. Like it wasn't even generating money. Like everything was free. We only had a free plan. So it was really just a side project. And I think we just dedicated like maybe an hour to it every day, or, just a little bit of effort here and there just to keep it growing.
It's so good to see that the business, or any business, when it starts from the ground up, there is so much potential for it to grow. And knowing that when you rely on your strengths, like your own strengths, but then you've got your husband with you with his strengths as well, you can see why the program it's just flying off the shelves, the virtual shelves. So I'm curious though, do you have a mission and purpose for Inventora?
Yes. So we always said from the beginning, we just want to simplify the day to day of business. And obviously, we're going to hone in on inventory management with that purpose. But it kind of all starts with how I had this huge problem with finding just one system. I will be the first to admit there's a lot of inventory systems out there, but still none of them felt like I could just easily jump into it. So that is our number one purpose with Inventora, is just having it, one, be accessible to everyone regardless of what stage you are in business. That's exactly why we have a free plan, which we call the hobby plan, because we believe even if you're not running a business, you still should probably track your inventory, or it helps a little bit, you know? So we just wanted to create something that was accessible and also simple to use.
I love that. So you mentioned that you've got a free offering, and I know that you've also got a paid plan as well. Can you explain the differences between the two?
Yes. So, like how I mentioned, we titled the free plan a hobby plan. We also have a paid plan that's called a business plan. Maybe down the road we might add more, but for now we just have those two. And the main difference is really what it says is we really believe that once you turn your hobby into a business, that there's just different features that you're probably in need of that you didn't need before. So the hobby plan allows you to track your materials, track your products made. It still has that automatic deduction whenever you create products. You also can input customer information if you want there. You can input supply orders. But the main difference when you switch to the business plan is that it opens the door for you to integrate with your shop. And so, in doing so, you now have the option to integrate with Shopify, Wix, WooCommerce, or Etsy, or multiple ones. So you can basically keep your stock levels in sync between all of your shops, and you don't have to manually adjust each one, you know, because that can be super annoying. And I know those who are on multiple platforms understand that hassle. But also, in doing so, now that you've integrated your shop on the business plan, you can also create more production runs because you're probably creating more products at a time, or you just have bigger plans that you need to take care of. You also can pull in your sales and basically start accumulating data within Inventora. So you can see all your sales from all your platforms and view various reports around your inventory. It really becomes a very robust system once you get on the business plan. And I think it's just something I've always said, it's kind of like having another employee just, you know, working in the background for you. So it's really been a game changer, I believe.
100% agree. Knowing that you can rely on Inventora, the system, to put your materials in, create products, it deducts what you need it to deduct along the way, and it can integrate with your website or your shop. It does everything it needs to do, but it's still simple and easy to use. It's not confusing. You can, as you say, you can jump straight into the program. It looks aesthetically beautiful, and the way that it functions is just seamless. Like I'm a huge advocate for it. I think it's just such an important tool to have in your business arsenal when you're starting, so you can get used to using the program. And then as your business grows, it grows with you, which is so clever. Are there any integrations in the pipeline?
So as of right now, we actually just released our fourth one, which was WooCommerce. So as far as shop integrations, we might take a pause for a little bit. There's a few that people have been asking for, like Equid or some less popular ones that we definitely want to tackle in the future. But I think the next step for us is really finding some shipping integrations to work with, because a lot of our users have been asking about Pirate Ship. I personally don't use that, so I can't speak much of it, but I know other people are using third-party apps that they kind of want to bring in that information into Inventora. And I think it totally makes sense. So I think that's kind of like our next big step for integrations.
I love that. And it's so exciting to think of where it'll be going to next and that it's still got so much potential for growth. So for those that might be looking at the program, so Inventora, how can you explain how they could add materials and supplies?
Yeah. So when it comes to adding your materials and supplies, we try to make this as seamless as possible and really to reflect how you would do it in real life. So basically, our idea is you receive an order physically, right? And you open it up. And usually, one of the first things you find in your package is a packing slip, and it lists off everything that's in your order. Well, our idea was, okay, so how about we just take that packing slip that you got and you just repeat that information into Inventora. And so basically, we created supply orders within Inventora. So every time, kind of like it's very straightforward. So you receive your supply order and you just input what is the supplier you received it from. So a very popular one here in the States is Candle Science. So you could say Candle Science, and then you just list off everything that's reiterated on your packing slip, basically. And we also account for taxes and shipping costs and any discounts. And you just type all that in, just hit done, and then it either restocks what you had or adds the new materials to your list.
Love it. And then how do you convert the materials into products?
So this to me is the magic part because that is the one thing I wanted when we started, you know? So kind of like how I mentioned earlier with how I know exactly what goes into one candle. That's kind of the key information you need to know. And you can do it on a batch level as well. Like, let's say you always make 10 candles, so you know exactly what goes into 10 rather than one. But basically, you will create a product. So you'll say, I'm creating a bamboo candle. And within the details of that, it'll ask you what materials are used, assuming you have already entered or inputted materials into Inventora. And so you could say, oh, for this 8-ounce candle, I use 6 ounces of soy wax. I use 0.5 ounces of fragrance oil, bamboo fragrance oil. And then you can even get as specific as it uses one wick, one sticker tab, and you can also say the jar that's associated with it. And so once the system knows that that's what it takes to make that candle, that's when that automatic deduction happens. So that's when you can say, okay, I made 20 of these candles today. And once you say you just made 20, it does all the math for you and takes away the materials used. So I will say getting set up into Inventora is, depending how much materials you have, can be a lengthy process. But I promise you, once it's all in there, the system just runs itself at that point.
Just like a good employee should.
Yeah.
So how important is auditing your stock and how often do you think we should audit?
Yes, auditing is something that I've always advocated for just because it often gets overlooked, especially because we just get busy and things just go on the back burner, and that's okay. But I always tell people maybe try to make it a habit to audit your materials once a month. And if that feels like a lot, what you could do also is audit a specific category once a week. So we'll say this week I'm auditing my wicks, next week I'm auditing my fragrance oil, and just have like a repeating cycle. But basically, what this allows for you is to just ensure that you're not missing anything. Because even though you have an inventory system, and while I'd like to say it should be reliable, but sometimes things in real life do go missing or they become damaged, or you open a box of jars, even though you received all your boxes of jars, you open one and 2 jars are missing from it, or they're the wrong ones. So that's what auditing at least once a month or periodically can help you just ensure that what you have in inventory is actually correct to what you have in real life.
Yes, because as you say, there are variables that can come into play, and by doing that audit either weekly or monthly, means that you can make sure that those numbers match up, which is so important, especially when you're getting to the lower side of your supplies. You don't want to think, oh yeah, I've got 5 jars in that box, and then you open it up and there's only 3, or there's one that's broken or something like that. One of the other features I really love about Inventora is that you can set your minimum stock levels, as in your minimum supplies of when you want to repurchase, and it appears in red. So when you're scrolling through your materials, you can see, oh, I need to order those jars, or I need to order some more wicks before you run out, which is so important, especially if you are not able to go to your local supplier and pick them up yourself. If you need to take into account the shipping time as well, particularly this time of year when we've got a lot of delays with shipping this close to Christmas, it makes sense to have that feature and to set your stock levels, your supply levels at a number that that you can feel comfortable with.
When you start your candle business, there are so many things to consider and research along the way, especially when it comes to choosing the right suppliers. Long Story Short provides all your design and printing needs, from your logo and branding to designing and printing your product labels. The quality is exceptional, the customer service is amazing, and prices are very reasonable. They are the only label company I recommend, so check out their website or send them an email today to get started. hello@longstoryshortdesign.com.au.
Are there any other features that we haven't talked about that Inventora has?
I would like to say there's a lot, just because I just feel like every day we're just like working so hard on, enhancing it. Some things I can think right off the top of my mind that often go overlooked is we actually have the ability to track bundles. So not only can you track your products at an individual product level, you can also track them in sets. So if you always sell, or if you offer, we'll say, I don't know, it's hard to think of examples sometimes, but let's say you always offer a candle and maybe you sell a wick trimmer with it. You can create a bundle, and what Inventora will do is be able to tell you if you have enough of each of those items in stock to sell that bundle and what needs to be replenished just within the bundle alone. So that's a feature that I always like to talk about. Some other things are the production area. I think that is one that most people take advantage of. But what this allows you to do is you can basically plan out or schedule what needs to be made. So for me, I have a lot of wholesale orders, and I usually tell them, hey, I can create it and fulfill it within like 2 weeks usually. And so what I'll do is go into my production screen and I'll say, X shop needs X candles, or I need to make X candles for this shop, and I can set a due date. And what the production screen will tell me is everything that needs to be created. So if multiple candles need to be created, and all the materials that I need to finish this order. And kind of like you mentioned, it'll show up in red if anything's low. And so that way I know, even before starting the order, oh, I need to order this if I want to complete this.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about the production feature, so thank you for reminding me. I know that it's so important when you do have multiple orders on the go, just the mind to think about what you need to have in place to make sure that you can fulfill all those orders can be quite overwhelming, depending on how many orders and how many products within each order. So to know that there's that feature that you can rely on, schedule your production, schedule the due dates, make sure that everything's on track. It's just, it's forward planning, whereas the audit is another feature that you can rely on to make sure that you've got enough supplies. So I just love it. I think it's such an incredible program, and I'm so grateful that I'm grateful that you had the problem to then come up with the solution that's now benefiting so many people.
I'm really glad too. It really has just grown so much larger than what I thought it could be, because kind of like I said, I just was surprised when I found out other people were having the inventory problems that I was having. And then it just seems like every day that passes, just another person joins Inventora and another person joins, and it's just like, wow. So
So good. And
it's very cool to see.
And it's worldwide as well, which I love. You've got customers from all over the globe, which is, it ties in so well with your candle brand TERRA as well, because you've got that, like TERRA literally means earth. So it's just so beautiful that you've got this ecosystem of products that benefit people, whether they're customers of candles or they're creators of candles. And it's just incredible. I love it.
Thank you.
Is there anything else that sets Inventora apart from other inventory tracking systems?
So what I really like to believe, and I mean, I feel like I'm biased when I say this because I did help create it, but I really do feel like it is simple to use. And I think that is honestly, it's very hard to achieve when it comes to having so many powerful features. I understand why some inventory systems may seem complex to get into just because it is a lot. It's a lot to manage. And I mean, as we know, it like if you just look around at your day to day, like that's basically all the things you have to put into the system. And it is a lot and then it can be overwhelming. But I really like to believe that Inventora is set apart by its simplicity.
It's basic, but it's so powerful.
Yes.
What's your favorite feature?
Mine has to be the production, just because before I had Inventora, I just had sticky notes everywhere. Like constantly, I was just writing everything on sticky notes. But the problem is, I'm actually not an organized person. So I would put these sticky notes in random places that just literally didn't make sense. I didn't date them. I just wrote down like the candles that need to be made. I didn't associate them with anyone specific, any shop. If it was for a wholesale order, it was just these candles. And so now that I have the production area in Inventora, which literally makes me give it a title, I'm like, okay, this is the shop. And then it'll ask me to put a date on it, like when is it due? So that's really saving my butt.
I love that. It makes you more organized, which is an important skill to have in life.
Yes.
So just moving on to some more general questions, I'd love to ask you, what are some of the challenges you faced when you first started the journey of Inventora?
Yeah, the biggest one, honestly, was just trying to pursue Inventora while I still was dedicated to TERRA. I will say, so Inventora formally, like publicly began in March 2021. I really do believe it took all of 2021 for me to figure out how do I balance these two? Because TERRA is truly like my child and I love it so much. So I never wanted to like steer away from it in any way. So that was really the hardest part for me. But I think it all kind of just came down to discipline. Kind of like how when I started TERRA, I had a full-time job and TERRA was just the side project, you know? So I kind of treated Inventora in that same sense. Like TERRA is my full-time job, work on it 9 to 5 or however long I need to. And then whatever time is left over, dedicated to Inventora.
And knowing that you could rely on your husband to work with you as well, not only on Inventora, but also making sure that you had that separation between the two businesses to make sure both were progressing and try and have that balance that is so elusive at times and trying to juggle all the different needs as well as, you know, taking care of yourself and being a good daughter and being a good wife and all the hats that we wear, knowing that both were a priority, but making sure that each had equal attention as best as you could.
Yes, absolutely.
How do you prioritize your to-do list each day, knowing you've got so many different things that you'd love to achieve?
This also has been a learning process. Ultimately, what I've learned to accept, and this kind of is like a new revelation for me, is to just go with the flow. Obviously, have a plan, be disciplined. I follow a schedule still. I know what needs to be done or what should be done. But also, I go with the flow in the sense of what is urgent, though, what needs to be done today versus what just needs to be done this week, like what could still be moved to tomorrow or the next day. So for me, how I organize my day really just comes down to urgency. It kind of sounds like I procrastinate because I say that, but I try to plan ahead with that still and just know, okay, this due date is coming up, so let's work on that first.
Yes. And you do have, so fortunately, a team around you as well that you can delegate to. What is your queen bee role, what you need to do yourself, and other things can be flicked off to other people if need be. Because as you know, we can't do everything that we want every day. There's just not enough time. But it's also about enjoying the journey, enjoying the process along the way as well. And if there's something that lights you up and brings you so much joy because it's your passion, then getting out of bed and knowing, I get to do this today. Like, this is my life. Like, it just brings so much joy. And I feel like, especially like through your Instagram, and just even, the handwritten notes when you receive an order from TERRA, like you can feel the passion and the positive energy coming from yourself and your team, because it's just such an incredible business that you've created.
Thank you.
So I know we asked about your to-do list each day, but then how do you work out your weekly routine? Do you have like certain things that you do on certain days, or is it just go with the flow throughout the week as well?
It's mostly go with the flow. What I will say that I noticed though is at the beginning of the week, it feels more like I'm taking care of admin tasks just because the emails tend to just get pushed off later in the week. So it feels like after the weekend and I come in on Monday morning and I sit down on my computer, and between TERRA and Inventora, I just feel like there's so much communication that I need to catch up on. So when it comes to my week, definitely Monday is emails. Some of that even slides into Tuesday. But honestly, the rest of the week, I'm usually making candles, might be preparing for a market event like I am this week. I have stuff going on Saturday and Sunday. And then really just keeping tabs on what my team at Inventora is up to and just kind of making sure everyone is just getting the things they need to get done as well.
So not only are you managing your own business, you're managing employees, which is a whole new level of business. Yes. I can imagine that would be, it would be a challenge at times, I'm sure, but I'm sure that they're just as passionate about working on Inventora as well.
Yeah, I think everyone finds joy just because we are lucky to work with a lot of small businesses or just, businesses in general. And we get to see the behind the scenes that no one else usually does when it comes to, just the general public. And so we all just have fun in it and just seeing what everyone's up to and what everyone's making and using Inventora to make those things is just really cool.
Definitely. What's one lesson your journey has taught you that you think everyone should learn at some point in their life?
There's a lot. I think for me, though, it's really just starting or just keeping the momentum going. So whether it be, you might be new to making candles and just keep practicing, or let's say you want to, I don't know, maybe you want to bring in something new to your candle business, and maybe it's how you do things and you want to try markets, or you want to try another type of event, or you want to do like a candle making class, just do it. It might be scary. I will be the first to admit, when I did my first in-person market, I was like shaking and I was terrified. But at the end of it, I was like, wow, this is really cool. Like, this was really fun and I want to do more. And I think sometimes we just get in our heads before we do something new. So like my biggest piece of advice is whatever you want to do, even if it scares you, just try. Like even if you just try in some capacity, like it doesn't have to be going all out to start, but just taking those first steps,
Yes. It's funny how our brain's trying to keep us safe by keeping us in our comfort zone when a part of us wants to try something new. We're not happy where we are. We want to explore a new venture. But then our minds will say, no, stay where you are. It's too scary. You get filled with fear or anxiety, which is the brain's way of protecting us. But you've always got to take a step back, assess what your thoughts are, and then just power through and try what you want to try anyway. So knowing that there are different parts of having a candle business that you can explore rather than getting overwhelmed and trying to do everything at once. Just try one aspect, just try something new, something that you haven't explored before. Do the research, learn about it, and then give it a go. You never know where it's going to lead you to. What's your favorite thing about what you do?
My favorite thing definitely has to be, so I can answer this on behalf of TERRA and on behalf of Inventora because they both fulfill me in different ways. My favorite thing about TERRA is honestly the connection I've grown with people through my business. I never expected to be, I guess, close to my customers or just feel comfortable with sharing about things with my customers. And people have really loved watching the journey of TERRA. And for me, that's just been so amazing because I mean, I've always just kind of been the introvert as growing up in like high school and middle school. And I never had a ton of friends. So when I started TERRA, I really started it with no one. Like there was no one I had to sell to. And I didn't have a bunch of support surrounding it. It was just like me, my husband, and maybe just a friend or two. And to just see what it's grown into and how people really want to be a part of this journey, like that is my favorite part. And if I can continue to keep it this way, I will definitely do all I can to. So that's been amazing. And then as far as Inventora, my favorite thing about what I'm doing there is really just the fact that I'm helping other businesses because when I started TERRA, I didn't know who to go to. I didn't know what I needed. I didn't know what resources there were. And I feel like through growing TERRA, I've just learned so much about business. And I feel like through Inventora, it's now my outlet or my gateway to actually share all that I've learned or help in some capacity, even if it means just a user using Inventora.
Yes. And knowing that people can connect in with you and feel that sense of community is so important. It's not that you're a business and you're doing what needs to be done and you're creating products and you're putting them out to the public, and it's not mechanical like that. It's so warm and friendly, and it has that community spirit both with TERRA and Inventora, and knowing that people can send you a DM and say, wow, your candles are amazing. Thank you for making this particular scent, or thank you so much for this feature in Inventora. It's really helped me keep track of my inventory. Knowing that they can do that and feel connected with you. And that's the benefit of social media and having Instagram and Facebook and all the different channels. People can feel like they're, as you say, on the journey with you, which is such a lovely way to feel connected to a business rather than, anyone can buy a cheap candle from a big store. We know that. Everyone knows that. But when you connect in with the story, you're connecting in with the people behind the brand, it makes you feel like you're a part of something bigger and that you're included in this sense of community. What gives you motivation to keep going when things get tough?
How do I answer this one? Because again, I think there's just a lot. But I honestly think my biggest motivation is just my home life. One, I feel like I've been able to, I don't know, I guess grow into a very happy home life because of the freedom TERRA has given me because I have been able to turn it into my full-time business. And so my biggest motivator is just how comfortable I am at home because my studio is at home. When I wake up in the morning, I just don't feel stressed. I mean, there's some days I feel stressed, but I mostly don't feel stressed because the day is up to my schedule. And I mean, I am pretty disciplined, but it's still just that safety net in my head knowing, if I feel sick, I don't have to like push through it. I can just relax. I also just feel like I've been able to just cultivate such a healthy relationship with my husband because we're actually both home together. We have dogs. I can actually enjoy their company. And I just feel like that is such a safe place for me that is what I want to keep. And so therefore, whatever I do in business kind of translates back to that.
I love that. And I'm a total homebody as well. And I know that that's my safe place. And I'm happy when I'm in my home, usually in my pajamas because I'm more comfortable like that. But definitely, you've got to get dressed if you're going to do business things. But knowing that you've created that sanctuary and that the growth of TERRA and Inventora have allowed you to have that space and allow you to have that freedom in your life and in your business is something that many people strive for. And it's so inspirational that you've been able to, crack the code and work out how to make that a reality for yourself and your husband as well. Which leads me into my next question, which is, how do you define success?
I really think this is, it's kind of like how you asked, how do I define it? It's definitely to each their own. But for me, it's just a matter of when you feel safe. It's kind of just like what I just said. It's just, when do you feel like you're just happy with where you are in life? And for me, business is a part of that, and it allows that feeling. But success in TERRA ultimately comes back to me, and it's just a matter of how I'm feeling. And so that's kind of like my measurement of success. It's not really a number, it's not revenue. It's just a matter of, is my business healthy? And therefore, am I happy?
I love that. What is the most important strength someone would need to have to be successful as a candle maker?
I think the most important strength, and this might be something a lot of people don't even consider, but I think it's storytelling. So the power to express the story of your brand, of your scents, candles. So this was something I had to learn because I started my business at the end of 2019 in December. So when I was growing my business and really like building its roots, it was through 2020. It was through the pandemic. And that was when we couldn't sell anything in person. And I know as candle makers, we're all trying to sell scents through a screen because we all have our online shops. And something that I learned that I really honed in on as what I consider a skill is storytelling, because you want to convey your scents to people through words and have them feel like they can actually envision the scent right then and there, or envision the ambiance, the environment that you set around it. And I really think as a candle maker, one, it's going to help you relate to your candle scent even more, because I just think the more you can embrace it, the more you'll be able to sell it. And then secondly, having someone connect to it and really just grasp it, they're going to immediately like latch onto it. They're going to want more. They're going to want to know, okay, I've made up this idea of it, but what is it in reality? Like, I want to try that. So I really do think it's storytelling. And I think it starts with your sense, but I think if you can broaden that into your brand and just your overall messaging, then it'll really make you a rock star.
That's right. It's not just about saying, here is a vanilla candle, please buy it from me. It's almost, it takes you away from the experience when it's so black and white almost. If you're able to weave in stories and weave in the experience that the customer can go through by purchasing your candle in that particular scent, they're not buying a candle for a candle's sake. They're buying the experience, they're buying the ambiance, like you say. They're wanting to have, a nice relaxing bath with a candle. They want to put their feet up on the couch and light a candle. They want to light a candle after they've cleaned the house and feel that relaxation and that joy. It's about really focusing in on the experience that the person or the customer will have by purchasing your product, rather than saying, here are my products and please buy from me. It almost makes it feel like it's disconnected from the story. And if you're able to reconnect to that story and share it with your customers, whether it's in the product descriptions or if it's in your social media or in your emails or however you're communicating with your clients, your customers, it makes such a difference, like you say, and it really set you apart from the competition because also, as you say, not everyone's focusing in on that storytelling element. But when you do, you'll notice a difference in your sales and just in the way that you present as a brand and as a person. So we've come to my favorite part of the podcast where I ask 3 questions for all my podcast guests. The first one is, what is your favorite candle fragrance?
So my favorite candle fragrance, I feel like this is going to be a little unexpected and some people might even be like, oh, really? But those who know, there is a brand called PF Candle Co. and it's widely popular. It's literally in every store here in America. But they have a scent that's teakwood tobacco. And I think I even know exactly what fragrance it is from Candle Science. But for some reason, I really like it in their candle. And I will say that is probably my favorite scent. It's just so warm and so cozy. And even though I feel like I know I can replicate it, actually, I have replicated it. It's just not the same. And maybe it just comes down to being a candle maker. And I just have this like higher level of appreciation for candle scents. But I really, really love that one. But I will say when it comes to my own, because I also obviously got to love one of mine right now, because it's holiday season, it's very cold here. So it actually is like the dead cold of winter right now. I have this scent called North Star, which it has notes of ginger, spice, like nutmeg, cinnamon. And it's also so cozy, but in a bright way. So it's almost the opposite of teakwood tobacco. It's like warm and cozy. And then this one's like bright and cozy.
That sounds so good. And I hope that I might have to do some Googling and see if I can order it online and see if they'll ship to Australia. That sounds really good. If not, I can obviously buy the TERRA version of the candle, which is good. Next question. What do you love about candles?
I think what I love the most is just seeing everyone's, I guess, like output of candles and their perspective of scents. My favorite thing is just seeing what everyone can create and like I don't want to say creativity because I just said create, but basically how creative they can be when it comes to making the candles and what their stories are behind each scent.
And then the last question is, what is one piece of advice for new candle makers at the start of their journey?
One piece of advice. It's like, okay, but I have 5.
Hey, if you want to share all 5, I'm not going to stop you.
I think it's kind of a tie between honestly just have fun. Like don't get caught up in wanting to be a big business. Like truly just have fun, explore what it is to even make candles, explore the process and take baby steps in becoming a business and really start to feel comfortable in it. Like don't rush into something if you feel like you're just stressed out and unsure of what to do for each step, But then also my other piece of advice is more so when you want to turn into a business, but do get organized. And I don't mean this on behalf of Inventora. I just mean I feel like I have done so many mistakes, but they could have easily been avoided if I was organized. I'm often thinking about taxes and just what entails in that, but definitely just, track everything, keep a log of all your expenses and just, I don't know, just have organization.
Yes, it's a highly underrated skill, but it's something that we need to make sure we're prioritizing so that we can have less stress overall. It just takes a little bit of prep work to be organized. And at least now with our inventory, we've got a program to keep organized with that. Dianna, thank you so, so much from the bottom of my heart for being on this podcast and sharing your time and wisdom with us today. I can say that this is probably one of the best interviews one of the best guest experiences I've had on the podcast. And as I said before we pushed record, you are one of my candle idols, and I truly appreciate all that you do and all that you've done for the candle industry. And I can't wait to see where TERRA and Inventora go next.
Thank you so, so much. Yeah, also how we said before we hit record, I'm also just excited to talk to you. So it's definitely a two-way road here, and I'm very, very thankful to be here.
Thanks everyone for listening today. I hope this episode added value to your candle making journey. Check out the show notes for all the links mentioned throughout today's show, and please subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. Thanks again for listening. Have a beautiful day.